Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the CDG Industry Spotlight. Coming up today, a fascinating conversation about all things labor rates and parts reimbursements. For example, is asking for that labor or parts reimbursement ruining my relationship with the manufacturer? Also, top 3 tips for getting that increase. Plus, the repair order is a legal document. What time bomb to avoid having your service writer's document on that customer pay RO? A special thanks to Wooden Automotive Consultants for supporting today's content. Joining us today, Rob Scott, Executive General Manager, Bob Johnson Auto Group, and Robert Wooden, founder, Wooden Automotive Consultants. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Let's get into it. So, Rob Scott, tell us a little bit about your dealership and your role there. How long you've been there, how many stores, where you're located.
So we're in Rochester, New York. I have been here since 2009, so 16 years, working on 17 years. Currently, I am the executive manager of this store. I started out in 2009 as one of 2 service managers and kind of worked my way up to parts and service director, to a fixed ops director. And then a few years back, the company started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we went more into giving each individual store control of their destiny, per se. So when we did that, I kind of came out of the fixed ops role and became a full-time executive manager of this particular store. So this store here, we're a high volume Chevrolet store. We're selling anywhere from 350 to 475 new, and currently around 215 used cars a month. Our service department is generating about 5 to 5,500 repair orders a month.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on.
Rob, it's interesting because you are on the tip of the spear of a trend that we're starting to see more of, which is folks with fixed ops background coming into general leadership as an executive manager, a general manager. And my theory on that is maybe part of the reason for that is the importance of fixed ops to the overall health and operation of a store, where in the past, maybe that wasn't as valued as much. What's your perspective? Like, you've certainly seen, you sit in meetings with other GMs and executive managers that have variable or sales background, not fixed ops. What's the advantage to you coming into that leadership role with the fixed ops background?
So typically when we're in these meetings, I'm the one that probably understands it the best.
Yeah.
But what's happening in our company is, well, first of all, we belong to a 20 group in the store. I belong to one. And then we brought our moderator in to moderate for our general managers and our executive leadership team. And fixed ops has been a focus for the group. So for me, it's kind of refreshing because they're talking my language. When it comes to when I sit around with them, sometimes it's a little intimidating on the sales side because I don't know everything.
Yeah.
But
you balance it out a little bit though, right? Like, that's a good balance.
I do. And the sales departments are very synonymous with the service departments. You can almost take, a service advisor is very similar to a sales manager. A salesman is very similar to a technician. And, they're all extremely important to us. But the fact is service puts more revenue on the statement than sales does. But we need the cars to kind of come back in and break and, fill up our service department. So it is a circle.
So given your background, what do you think the biggest misconception or misunderstanding most GMs coming from a sales role or a variable ops have about the operation? What's 1 or 2 things that most people just don't get that you get because of your fixed ops background?
I'm going to say the importance of fixed operations, the importance of internal labor sales. Especially when you get into used car reconditioning, it's important to do stuff at retail rates and not overcompensate your salespeople because you're reducing the rates and overpaying the sales side of the house. Because fixed really is where the bulk of the revenue is coming onto your statement. So that's probably number one. And then the second biggest champion that we tend to overlook is the parts department. Without them, nothing gets fixed. And generally speaking, they're not appreciated. Nobody really understands what they do. Nobody really wants to understand what they do, but they really are, they're pivotal.
Yeah.
And, in some ways they can almost be the doormats of the store.
Yeah. It's not a particularly sexy department or role or position, but without it, you can't fix anything. You can't recon used cars. You can't take care of customer recalls. You can't service customer calls, do any warranty work. It's a mess, right?
Accessories, all of it, accessories. And, we expect to just walk over to the parts department and they just can pull it out of thin air. And then, if you have a stop sale on something, they want to know when the part's going to be here. There certainly is a lot to what they do back there.
Yeah. It is interesting because you're talking about that balance between fixed and variables. You're in a huge volume store, so you're selling a lot of vehicles and you're doing it supporting both sides of the house. I just think that's fascinating. So we're here to talk about a couple best practices that you and the auto group have done. You kind of realized a problem a while back, and that's something all dealer groups, myself included, are seeing across the country, and that is cost of repairing vehicles, cost of parts. All of that is just escalating. In fact, to quote a phrase from Anchorman, that escalated quick, and through COVID it did, right? Tell us a little bit about the increased cost of labor and parts and all that, how that impacts the business. What are some of the things you've done to try to solve that as an overall problem?
Being transparent, knowing what our competition is doing, and staying in line and not getting a reputation for gouging people. We don't charge over MSRP in sales and service. Well, not there is no MSRP in service, but there's a list price in parts. We don't charge over that either. You have to be transparent with the customers, and most customers understand, there's not anybody in your service department or your sales department that doesn't get a paycheck to some degree or another. They understand. And, profit should not be a dirty word. And, with that, your employees expect more. Trust me, if we get a labor rate increase, there's definitely somebody standing outside your door wanting some more money. You get a parts increase, you got the parts guys wanting to make sure. But just because we get an increase doesn't mean that your costs don't go up. I mean, because they're up on everything. It's not just, the cost of goods, the cost of services, the investments that we've had to make in the facility for EV chargers. And, I have 4 high-powered EV chargers outside that were a significant investment. Yeah. And then, the capitalization of, just the normal projects that you work on, updating your showrooms, updating your service departments. It seems like there's always computers that the technicians need that can support to do, wireless programming and stuff like that. You could run into a scenario where if you had a poor computer and you're trying to reprogram a car, if you burn a module, it's more than the computer cost.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned labor rates. Let's talk about that. We've seen the cost of labor and technician labor go up and up and up and up. Labor rates, as they're approved by the OEM, haven't necessarily done the same thing, right? And you recently identified that as a friction point in the dealership. Tell us a little bit about how you came to that point and what you did to try to solve that as a problem.
So, the first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure that your people are selling for the right rate. You have to make sure that your advisors, when there is an issue, are selling the job up front the correct way. If it's a variable, if you need to do A and then reassess, and then let the customer know that there's more money at that point. It's not like we reassess and the price doesn't change. So communication is big. Controlling discounting is big, which I rely on the service manager to do. And then, making sure that we're selling the job at the right price, that you don't have a technician that is using his own labor time guide per se.
Yeah.
You really want to stick to all data or the motor manual and make sure that you're right in line with that. Because in New York, we have retail reimbursement for warranty where we use the motor all data time. So, and in order to stay compliant with the factory, you have to charge that all the way through on the customer side as well.
Yep.
So if you're going to discount one, you got to discount the other. So we really have gotten away from the discounting model and just selling it. And, our dealership here, we have a rewards program. So selling the value of the rewards program, capitalizing on the GM rewards, which is a manufacturer program, which they can use for parts and service as well. And then, identifying, just services and sticking to, a best price that we've predetermined for them. And that transcends into the parts department as well. Making sure that if there is a discount, that it makes sense. And, you don't have a service advisor over discounting the parts department. When we did our most recent study, Robert had identified a few things that kind of hurt us.
Yeah. So enter Robert. Tell us how you met Robert with Wooden Automotive.
So what I was saying is at the time, the dealer group had been expanding. I was over parts and service for the group, and I was kind of being worn a little thin. But we had an agenda that we wanted to really work on fixed operations profitability in every store we have. And, the easiest way to do that is to maximize your labor rates, internal, customer pay, and of course, warranty. And warranty can be difficult. And there's a couple different companies out there that do things in some different ways. Some want to sell you consulting. Some want a processing fee plus a percentage of the lift for a year. And I wasn't interested in any of that. I didn't see the value in it. And then I just Google searched companies that do this. And, I seen a 585 number and I'm like, this is interesting. So it was a Saturday afternoon. I called, left a message, and just as I hung up, the phone's ringing. And it was Robert. And we talked probably for about a half hour that afternoon and told him the portfolio stores, what I was looking to do. And then we started working together, and, he did everything that he promised he would do.
So Rob, tell us, you said it's difficult, warranty labor rate increases. What makes it difficult? Why is that hard? You should, you can get an increase. You should just be able to go say, hey, give me the increase and you're off to the races. Why is it hard?
Well, because we have opposing agendas, right? We want more money. The factory doesn't want to give us more money if they don't have to, and they hold you to the letter of the law. Some manufacturers are a little bit more stringent than others. Some are very black and white, that this is the law, this is what we do. And then there's some that will kind of challenge you. And Robert knows, which manufacturers they are, and he was able to kind of guide me to what we need to do. And as we started working, we did one store, then two stores, then three stores. And, he's doing the overwhelming majority of the stores now, not all of them.
Yeah.
But in every one that we've done together, he's gotten exactly what we asked for. For me, it's peace of mind that he's going to do it. It's going to be done right. It's going to be done in a timely fashion. I mean, all I do is I create a logon for him. I give him access to it. He does what he needs to do. In our system, he even extracts the data out of our system. We don't have to print repair orders. All I have to do is sign a letter and send it off to the factory and just set a diary for 30 days. Typically, I get so excited, I never call him, tell him that they did it.
Yeah.
He'll call me like a week later. And he's like, you're supposed to call me.
Yeah.
The last time I did this, one of my service managers needed a presentation, and he waited till the night before to tell me that he needed this for his 20 group.
Oh, no.
So I was like, wow, we just did a parts increase, and I did this pro forma for him. And,
yeah,
he didn't do a good job presenting it, but I gave him something, and it was concrete, and I could attribute it back to a statement. Because, anytime that you have vendors,
yeah,
everybody claims this lift.
Yeah.
But a real lift you can measure. When your labor rate is, let's just say it's 175 and he moves it to 200, that's real money.
Yeah. Let's go back just a little bit. So you said you looked at the different ways you could be charged for this labor rate increase, and you said, hey, I don't like any of these. What did you end up preferring? Like, what was the structure to get compensated for helping with this?
So it's just a flat retainer fee.
Okay. So flat fee. So
And
it's
it's
not a
not paid.
percent of.
So it's a flat fee, and it's paid when I get my money.
Oh, nice. Okay. So
So he's
if it
he's
doesn't
not
work,
standing outside my door.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, if it doesn't work, he doesn't do it. He'll tell me, hey, you're not going to get what you want.
Yeah.
If this is what you want, wait a month. These are the areas I would look at. It doesn't tell me exactly, but this is low. Look at this. This specific service advisor seems to be a little lower than others. Look at him. And it just allows somebody like me to just dial in. And again, a lot of my general managers that run some of these stores, they're not that well versed in fix. So I'll call them
Yeah.
up. We'll talk about it. This is what you want to look at.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I got some really talented GMs that work alongside me. Some of these guys are better than me, and they're really starting to dial in with fixed operations, which it's refreshing to see that that we can kind of have a talk like that.
So Rob, one last question. Let's go over to Robert and get his perspectives on this issue. So did you try on your own to get some of these labor rates escalated, and you just kind of are like, hey, this is either it's too much labor, there's not good ROI on the time spent, or it didn't work because the competing interests that you mentioned between the OEM and yourself as a dealer?
So I was successful in doing it, but it's an inordinate amount of time, right? So you gotta know how to get the data. You got to know how to sort it. So a guy like me, I don't know how he does it, but a guy like me was dumping in Excel, writing a formula, looking at some stuff, and then you pull an RO out, and it's like, all right, it's not what it says.
Yeah.
Robert just goes into my system, and the next afternoon he calls me and says, this is what we're going to do, and that to me is my time, right? So me personally doing it, and then having somebody reprint all the ROs and box them up, and it's just
your business is fixed ops. You're not there to do that, right? You're there to
it's
sales.
Right. It's the convenience. We had another conversation while we were on hold earlier, but if something is convenient and easy, and there's a value proposition to it, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Robert, walk us through. You met Rob. Rob said, hey, help us out with this. There's a lot of documentation. I'm not sure I understand all the different requirements. Like, this world. Or what do you do from that point? And then I'd love to have you walk us through what are the top 3 mistakes most dealers make when they try to do this on their own. But what did that pickup look like from Rob?
Yeah. So, again, like we were talking earlier, Rob called me on a Saturday night, and like anybody in the car business, we're on 24/7, right? Somebody calls you and they want to buy something, we're going to sell it to them.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and it's been a great relationship. And as far as what we do is, we're taking that work and we're making it as turnkey as possible, right? So literally you're going to call us up. You want us to do an analysis for you. We do the analysis. We don't charge you for the analysis, right? So before you spend a dime, you're going to know if it's going to be worth the ROI.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to hire me and pay me some money for something you're not going to get.
And how do you calculate, Robert, whether it's worth the ROI?
Yeah, so we have a software that we developed. It's called Fixed Ops Intel, Fixed Operations Intelligence. We call it Fixed Ops Intel for short. We're integrated with, CDK and Reynolds and Techion and DealerTrack, PBS and Automate soon to come. So we don't have to access your DMS. We don't remote into a manager's computer. We used to do that years ago. We don't have to do that anymore. And, we started working on Fixed Ops Intel almost 3 years ago now, way before the CDK debacle, and people were really worried about security. And, I started that project because, we've been doing warranty uplifts for almost 28 years. We started in 97. Almost 30 years we've been doing this. And, Rob alluded to it earlier, it used to look at our office and there was just stacks of paper everywhere.
Yeah.
And I wanted a way of making it more efficient for us, more efficient for our clients, more secure. So that was really the genesis for Fixed Ops Intel. So we're able to take that information, take the data directly from the DMS. It'll analyze it and come back and say, okay, here's where you're at now. Here's where you're going to be if we submit. And along with that data, like Rob had talked about, we're able to pick out some things that maybe are impacting that rate that, you can make the decision. Do you want to apply for it now, or do you want to wait and make those changes? And we can continue to monitor it. Again, the fixed ops intel is going to be running there, and the manager in the store has access to that software, and they can watch the rates. And we send them a update every Monday morning. It's in your email box, so they know exactly where they stand. That's how we do it. As far as the top 3 items, oh boy, I think Rob had alluded to it before. Discounts is a huge thing. A lot of managers are not paying attention to that and allowing their people just to discount stuff that they have no idea what's going on.
So how do you get what's a tip you would have to get your arms wrapped around that and prevent that?
So typically what we do is we'll help, and we know all the DMSs pretty well, so we can help the manager set up their DMS to restrict or limit the discounting, so that an advisor or a parts person has to go get an authorization or is going to be responsible for that discount, and not just have discounts fly through without a manager looking at it.
So I'm fascinated by this. You say you've got a process. You know what? Let's walk back and just look bigger picture. I think most dealers that are watching this can empathize with that challenging relationship between the OEM and the dealership. You don't want to tick your partner off, and the OEM is your partner. And so going to them all the time and asking for the maximum labor rate increase, sometimes it feels like you're pushing that relationship or trying to take advantage of it. Robert, give us some tips and suggestions on how to approach this so you get what you need, so you can pay people, you can deliver great service, but you still maintain that great relationship.
Yeah. So I've said this for years. The factory's not your friend. Okay.
Interesting.
Again, they're your partners, but you're in a relationship with them that yields benefits for both parties.
Yeah.
Once the benefits for one party goes away, the relationship's going to dissolve. So, if the manufacturer is not giving you product to sell, are you going to continue to be a rep for that product? Probably not.
Right.
And vice versa, right? If you're not hitting your MSR, they probably are not going to keep you around as a dealer. So there's a relationship there. And oftentimes I hear that from dealers. They're like, well, I don't want to ask for this because it's going to piss them off.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, a profitable dealership is going to service those customers better. And on the front end, the manufacturers are saying, no, we don't want these higher rates. But many of the manufacturers on the back end are telling their dealers to call us because they understand that a profitable dealer is going to be able to pay their technicians. They're going to be able to have the facilities and the tools to be able to take care of their customers properly so that they keep that retention. So it's kind of a funny relationship. Dealers should not worry about, angering the factory. That's long gone. This is just a normal process that is the law in every state in the U.S. So what are some of the biggest mistakes dealers might make? Robert didn't, because he made the phone call and he got somebody that has expertise in it. But what are some of the biggest mistakes you see in trying to get these labor rate escalations in dealerships? So not understanding the rules or kind of the rules of the game, right? And every state is different. So every state has their own statute. They're all somewhat similar, but they all have their own little tweaks. So understanding the state laws in all the states is a huge part of that. And understanding the proper process. There might be, there's other companies or there's other individuals, maybe consultants that are out there that will do this for dealers. but having the process to be able to do it quickly, that's a very common question that I get when we have a potential new client. Is they always ask, how long is it going to take you? Mm-hmm. And for us, it typically is the dealer that we're waiting on because of, like I said before, WIP. Like they have open tickets that are open for months back that we need copies of. And I can't move forward with our document review until, they supply us with all those documents. So typically from the time that we get the documents, what we call missing documents from them, it's about 5 to 7 days and we're done. And ready to file. So, that's it. And, one of the things that we do, Sam, is we actually have designed Fixed Ops Intel so that if there are other companies and consultants out there that want to offer this to their clients, we offer the service for them to use.
Oh, so you'll broker it out. That's nice.
Yeah. And, there's dealers out there, and Rob did his own for years, that say, hey, I want to do it myself. Yeah. That's fine. With Fixed Ops Intel, you have all the tools that we have to do it, and we'll show you how to use it. It's super simple. So,
all right. So let's say you're sitting in a Honda store somewhere and you want your labor rate to get increased, your factory labor rate. You feel like there's, let's say, a $50 an hour bump you could get. What does the timeline look like from that late night Saturday call that Rob made to you to having that change enacted?
Well, again, it depends on the state, because different states will have different time periods that the manufacturer has to respond. Most states are 30, some of them are 45 days. There are states that are 60 days, and our friends in Hawaii is 90 days. But yeah, it must be they still have you put it in a bottle and let it, drift with the current.
Carrier pigeon. Yeah.
But for us, like I said, it can be as quick as 7 to 10 days. Again, okay. depending on how many documents we're waiting on the dealer for, because again, with our system, we don't have to get documents from the dealer. We have the documents and we're generating them on the spot. So we have all the documents that we need to submit to the manufacturer without having to bother the manager or bother the warranty clerk or anybody at the dealership.
Interesting. So now, Rob, let's take it to the practical level. What was the savings or the revenue generation to your store for one of the store's labor rate increases that you did?
So my most recent parts lift in one of my stores is $7,000 a month.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I mean, essentially, the first month is free, and then, we move on, and it's all mine. But, when you look at parts or, there's no additional cost once you get this. So it's just money that just falls right. It's net profit. It goes straight to the bottom line. And if I could build on, when you do it your own self, when you talk about reprinting, let's just say you have 1,000 repair orders.
Yeah.
If you're missing one repair order, your sample gets thrown out, right? So for somebody like me, and you talk about $7,000 a month, one repair order could be $7,000, right?
Wow.
So when you have a company, because now I could look at Robert and say, hey, dude, what happened? But I haven't
put it on him.
That.
Yeah, right. You put it on him.
But he has a better process, right? And it just works. And I'm not relying on people, because don't think that I'm upstairs printing out 1,000 ROs. That's not happening. I got somebody that's running up and down stairs, and then we got to box it, and then we got to, schedule a UPS. And, I call Robert and tell him what I'm looking for. He says, yep, this is optimal. This is what we can do. A couple of days later, he tells me, this is what you're going to get. I write a letter, basically a demand letter. I send it out. And about 31 days later, I'm running around clicking my heels.
And to Rob's point, with the number of repair orders, so a typical domestic dealership takes around 2,000 repair orders. And again, it depends on the work mix, but it generally is around the 2,000 to 2,500 repair orders. An import like a Honda, Toyota, something like that, we've had them be upwards of 8,000 to 9,000 repair orders in order to get the number of qualifying repair orders that we need. And again, it just depends on work mix. So think about, how much time would it take one of your employees or even a couple of employees to source and make copies of 8,000 repair orders and make sure that there's not a single one missing out of there.
Yeah. By an integration, you're able to do that. You're able to collect that data instead of having the dealer do it.
Correct. Yep.
What is the future of price increases on labor rates and parts and whatnot? Like, inflation has escalated. Labor costs so much and parts cost so much so quickly. Looking down the road 6 months, 12 months, and 5 years, maybe. Like, what is the future of this?
You want to take that one, Rob? What do you think?
Well, I can tell you that the dealer here put a letter on my desk from shortly after they opened, and the labor rate was like $32 an hour.
Wow. Yeah.
Right.
And now what is it?
We're over 200, so, but the point to that is it's just going to go up. And I can remember being a service advisor in 1999 and, my boss taking us to $89 an hour.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God,
there's no way you can do that. Yeah.
No. And now it's just like, we'll talk about it. And like, yeah, let's see what our competition is. Okay, they moved $10. They really moved $10. All right, let's do it. And you'd be surprised. I mean, our customers, they don't ask. They really don't ask. At the end of the day, I think that when you bring your car to a franchised car dealership, it's about accountability, the quality of the repair, the timeliness, the loaner cars, the sales relationship, quality of the part. But it's all those things wrapped into one. And for that, there's a lot of people that have to get paid, and I don't have a turnover issue here. Yeah. So we pay our people, but you got to have the revenue coming in to do that.
Yeah, it does seem to me that like keeping up on those increases is super important for all those reasons. Retention, delivering your best product to your customer. And it does seem to me if you get behind the curve on that, it's tough to catch up, right, Robert? Like if you haven't requested an increase in 5 years and you try to do it all at once, that's a challenge.
Yeah. And, we just had a client, import client, I'll just say that had never done a parts increase, very high volume in a major market. And we did the analysis, and it's going to be 1.2 million a year net.
Wow.
And so that's great that they're going to do that we're taking care of that for them now. But I look at that and I say, how many years? It's been 15 years or more that they could have been having that revenue. What could they have done in their facilities or for their people or expanding their business to, with that revenue? It's huge. And to come back to your earlier question, Sam, about the labor rates, and we're kind of hearkening back to the days, but I'll tell you the genesis of warranty uplift. Okay, so how this whole thing started. In 97, we built a brand new facility and we moved into that facility. And at that time, my warranty labor rate was $45 an hour. And everybody in the metro market, which was about 7 miles away from me, was in the $65 to $66 an hour warranty labor rate. So that was back in the day when you had to call around to all of dealerships, fill out the paperwork and send it into the zone. And I knew all the guys at the zone office. They were all buddies. And I got the call. Yeah, we're not going to. And I was only asking for $60 an hour. I wasn't even asking for 66. I said, give me $60 an hour. And they said, no. They flat denied me. I'm like, but why? We built a brand new facility. We're double our MSR. CSI is great. Why? You're a rural dealer. We're not going to give that to you. So they pissed me off. And so I went back through the warranty policy and procedure manual, and there was a process that's very similar to what warranty retail reimbursement is today. I went through that process, mailed it into Detroit, and a couple weeks later, I got $72 an hour. And I was like, wow, okay. And so I started telling other service managers, other friends, and then they started calling, and it's organically grown over the last 30 years. So that was the genesis for that. So again, 30 years ago, I was at $45 an hour. We have clients now that are in the 320s and will have 120% plus parts markup. I don't know where it's ever going to end because inflation's never going to stop.
No.
Right?
Yeah. No.
It just COVID definitely accelerated that.
Yeah.
With the inflation, everything that was happening. And I just think that this is going to be a perpetual thing going forward, unless something drastically changes in the auto business, which I don't think it's going to.
So as we round out the conversation, and this is super fascinating, just a simple process, a small process that maybe some service managers and dealers may not think about, where there's hidden revenue, there's hidden profits that will help us deliver our best selves to our customers. What are some of the states that are toughest to do this in? And what are some of the easiest? You mentioned Hawaii as an example. It's 90 days, the approval process. What are some of the toughest states?
Yeah, so some of the states where the manufacturers have a little more sway is just based on the vagueness of the law. And I'll just pick on Texas, for instance. So Texas, for years, their law is still not as clear as some of the other ones on what is allowable, what's not allowable. There's also some states that have what they call an unreasonableness clause, which essentially allows the manufacturer to say, yeah, we think that that's not reasonable, and we're going to compare you to other dealers in your geographic area. New Jersey just comes to mind. They have that statute. So the manufacturer has all their data from all the dealers, and they can just come and say, well, everybody else is getting this, so we're going to give you the same. Well, the dealer has no way of knowing if that's true or not. And I'm not saying that the manufacturers are lying, but that's those states that have those vague laws or have laws that allow the manufacturers to dictate some of this are stunting the dealer's ability to get the retail rates. And like I said, what ends up happening with that is I still have to pay my technicians and my parts people and my advisors. So the burden of that expense is going to get shifted to the customer pay side of it, right? So your customer pay is going to rise quicker than your warranty. Something's going to happen. So, really the higher warranty rate in parity with a customer rate, in a way, is helping the customer pay people not pay as much as it would have been, when you used to have $100 an hour labor rate and your warranty was only $50 an hour. Now they're in parity.
Yeah. Interesting. Are labor rates more dictated by metro versus rural, as you mentioned before? Is it state by state, or is it just cost of living in the marketplace? Like, do you see trends where you're like, hey, in New York, it's, substantially higher?
Yeah, I mean, major metro areas tend to have higher rates, but that's not always the case. We have some dealers in some more rural areas that are in the 300s, right?
Yeah.
It depends on the facility and marketing and like Rob had said before, customers are more concerned about, am I going to get my vehicle fixed properly? Am I going to have a good experience? And do they trust them? And price is pretty low on that priority list. So, yes, there are obviously, LA, San Francisco, DC, New York City. Of course, they're going to have higher rates, but that's not 100% true. There are dealers in more rural areas that have really good rates as well.
Well, a fascinating conversation. Robert Wooden, founder, Wooden Automotive Consultants, and Rob Scott, Executive General Manager, Bob Johnson Auto Group. Appreciate you joining the show to share your perspectives on all things labor rate, warranty rate increases, and how to go about effectively getting those in different marketplaces, even when I think it's fascinating that the friction point between OEM and dealer and how ultimately this ends up serving not only the customer, it also ends up serving obviously the dealership and the employees, generating more revenue to be able to pay back. So just appreciate you both being on the show. Robert, any closing comments as we wrap up?
Yeah, a couple of recommendations for the managers out there to help you is, again, lack of documentation. A customer repair order has to be just as good as a warranty. Get your 3 C's on there. Use proper labor op codes. Not only does that help you guys in the future and your service advisors, but it helps us to do a better diagnostic on the fixed ops intel side. And then customer states and customer requests. Be very careful with those statements. I know a lot of advisors and a lot of managers have that as their first few words on every op code. But what's happening now is the manufacturers are saying, warranty wouldn't pay for that because a customer requested you to do it, right? They're not going to replace an engine just because the customer requested it. And so if a customer requests replacing the alternator, that's not a warranty-like repair, so they're going to refuse that. And those kind of repairs are very good, high labor rate, good parts markup. Those will get kicked out because they're using this canned statement of customer states and customer requests. So make sure your advisors are properly documenting things. What was the customer's concern? What was the failure? Parts aren't bad. They didn't misbehave. They're failed. They broke or wore out or whatever. So proper documentation is huge. And this is a legal process. And so that document, that repair order is a legal document. And it needs to be treated that way. So make sure that we're documenting things properly. Those are
how often do you see the improper documentation preventing a labor rate escalation?
9 out of 10.
Wow, that's high.
9 out of 10 stores. Yeah, there's maybe I'm being a little too critical, but maybe it's 8 out of 10. But there are more poorly documented repair orders than properly documented repair orders. And again, advisors are like, oh, it's customer pay. I don't have to worry about a warranty administrator or, Ford or Chrysler or whoever kicking it back on me, because once the customer paid for it, it's good down the road. But, we live in a litigious society today, and that repair order will either help you or hurt you. And, having to go to court is not fun. And that doesn't happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen very often. But if you're having to do a labor rate increase every year, that can cost you big time, maybe even more than a court case in the long run. So,
well, it's interesting. An RO is a legal document. Go ahead, Rob.
It is. And most of the motor vehicle agencies, they're authorities. They're not state run. They follow their own rules, their own laws per se. They're not, really laws, but they interpret them different. And, to Robert's point, another takeaway from this really is any repair order should always be written like a warranty repair order. Just all the way through. It really, somebody that knows nothing about cars should be able to pick up and understand what was wrong with the car, what the diagnosis was, and what they did to fix it in a clear and concise manner. If your grandmother, your grandfather doesn't know anything, can pick that up and understand it, it'll cascade all the way through. That's way more important than all of this.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
And one other thing I wanted to throw out there too is the thing that's happening now. The change in the warranty uplift landscape is that the normal process, the manufacturers are not adhering to the old norms. They're ignoring state laws in a lot of cases. They're trying on dealers. We just had a Honda dealer the other day that, we documented 95% parts markup, and Honda came back and said, we're going to give you 72. And the dealer's like, well, I think that's good. It's better than 40%. Like, no, it's not good, because it's 20 percentage points less than what you're owed. But what's happening is they're just trying you on. They're like, hey, let's throw it out there. And a lot of times, coming back to your early comment, Sam, was, oh, well, we want to be a good partner with them. Well, would a good partner try and knock you down 20 percentage points? That doesn't seem like it's a good partner to me.
Yeah, a good partner is going to ask for to be as healthy as they can in paying their employees and providing quality repair to their customers. That's what helps, I think, provide that best service. And it is interesting how you say some OEMs will actually coach dealers to come to you just so they can get the process nailed. Because I can see how, like, if you don't dot every I, cross every T in the process, it's going to get rejected. It's going to get sent back, and it just elongates the process. Even, your own story, you ended up getting more just by reading the manual and doing it exactly as they said, right? So,
yeah, and I think that's why we've been able to be successful, because there's an auditor on the other side. We have auditors on our side. There's a a flip side of that, and when they get that documentation and it's all done properly, clean, they can understand it, and it's easy to do. Yeah. Our success rate is going to be a lot higher, and we're going to get more for our clients.
So, Robert, there are other vendors that provide similar services. What sets you apart from those vendors?
Yeah, a few things, Sam. Experience is a big one. We started doing this in 1997. It's grown organically over the last 28, almost 30 years. Our staff are experienced dealership warranty admins that have been doing this a long time. That's one thing. And we are the warranty uplift company. We own the trademark. If you Google warranty uplift, you're going to find us. That's where we get a lot of our clients from, as well as repeat customers and referrals. We charge a flat fee. We don't pay kickbacks to organizations. We never take a percentage of the uplift. There's no contingency fees. We have Fixed Operations Intelligence, Fixed Ops Intel, which is our own custom design reporting and analytics program. And within that, we just launched Dash AI, and Dash is a data concierge. You just ask it anything you want to know about your fixed ops data, and it's going to serve it up to you. And it's not ChatGPT. It's a closed system. It does not share anything with ChatGPT. It's custom designed. No data goes outside of our system. There's no customer personal data that is shared with the AI engine. So, we take data security very seriously. And so we want to make sure that we protect our clients and their clients.
Well, my gosh, 28 years doing that. That's an incredible accomplishment in and of itself. And then going from those beginnings 28 years ago to the AI connection today and being able to dish that back up, it's neat to have followed the trajectory of your company. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, Robert Wooden, Wooden Automotive Consultants, Rob Scott, Executive General Manager, Bob Johnson Auto Group. Appreciate you both being on the show, sharing your perspectives.
All right, Sam.
With our audience.
Thank you, Sam.
So
Good
thank
to
you.
talk to you.